Thank you.
everybody. Good morning. Welcome to a fantastic, or what should be, a fantastic ministerial panel. Of course, I don't need to introduce the distinguished members over here. You can see we've got ministers from Zimbabwe, from Tanzania, from Trinidad and Tobago. It's an honor, Your Excellencies. Thank you for joining me. We have a very, very important topic to go through, really about exploring partnerships and how you are unlocking the true potential for each of your countries, really, through these kind of partnerships for ENP. If I may ask Your Excellency from Trinidad and Tobago to start it off, I would love for each of you to really frame the question that we are going to be answering, because each of your countries is in a different stage of maturity, right, when it comes to the hydrocarbons. But before we get into that, what is your view of the energy world going forward? There's so much talk about energy transition. Of course, we all know all forms of energy will be required. Oil and gas will continue to play a very important role. And each of you are doing so much work around providing, whether it be fiscal incentives, whether it be different types of incentives. But before that, if I could ask each of you really about your views on energy demand going forward to frame the discussion. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sen, and good morning to the very distinguished ministerial delegation on stage and the audience. It's a pleasure to be here, and let me just begin by expressing our deep gratitude to the Indian government and all sponsors of this very important event this week. To get quickly to the issues, Trinidad and Tobago is considered a mature province in that we have been in the oil and gas business for over 100 years. And today we provide, in that sense, leadership, not just in terms of production, oil and gas, but we advance ourselves as a sort of Caribbean hemispheric leader in the sector, where we intend to capitalize on the advantages we bring to the table, such as considerable human resources. We have operating in the country as well several of the leading oil and gas companies in the world, but not only as oil majors, but also the service sector is also highly developed given this experience. So that while we are in a transition in terms of the economic structure of the country, over the last 10 years or so, we have had a sustained decline in oil production and gas. That may change in the coming years based upon projects that are ongoing, so that we believe that the energy demand in the next quarter century or so would increase by almost 50%. And we will still have a huge role to play in the region, notwithstanding, our neighbor Guyana as well, where you have to talk about that as well. We believe that we will play a significant role as the energy hub of the Caribbean. And this is why we are looking for investment and partnerships with the international private sector as well to develop some of the key projects going forward that will bring the revenue and the foreign exchange, of course, but it will also bring a reasonable rate of return to the investing community. So that to answer the question really initially is that for the next 25 years or so, we expect almost a 50% increase in energy demand, and Trinidad and Tobago is well poised to work with other partners to meet that global economic challenge.
And like you say, I mean, if you look at your even geographical position, it's so important in that region. We'll come back to that. What's Tanzania's view on energy demand going forward, and how are you positioning yourself?
Thank you very much, Doctor, and good morning, each and everyone in the House. I feel honored to represent my country and my Minister for Energy. I'm a Deputy Minister. And as you asked, the global is talking about oil and gas, is talking about energy. The demand is too high, and we, Tanzania, considering our geographical location as well, we have a lot of exploration that have been done, and we have ongoing seismic data and surveys. which will bring, we have already discovered a lot of oil and gas, which serves domestic purpose, industrial purpose, and as well as the regional, East Africa regional and Southern African regions. So if you ask me, looking forward in few years, the demand is going to be very high, and that makes us invest more on it, which we believe from the country more job will be created, and from the country more industries are going to be emerging, which will support the economy of the country.
Yeah, I mean, East Africa is absolutely booming in terms of what's going on. Your Excellency, you were on stage yesterday as well, and we heard you. Give us your views on this topic. You've got some really interesting perspectives on how, of course, Zimbabwe's role, but just generally where you see economic growth and energy demand going.
Well, thank you very much, and I want to thank the whole audience that is listening to me for the second time. Let's look at our economies, particularly in post-colonial countries. This is for the first time that we are changing our production systems. Rather than remaining being extractive, most countries are pushing for beneficiation. And that beneficiation of mining, of agriculture, of other industries means that there is more demand for energy. And that energy requires investments in all forms of energy resources. And oil and gas is particularly very important for us because almost all the countries in Southern Africa, Tanzania, which is just mentioned, Namibia, South Africa, Mozambique to a large extent, they are all now in oil and gas.
Yes.
And because they are in oil and gas, and Zimbabwe has joined them recently, we believe that this is an opportune time to use that oil and gas to power not just the electricity demands that are increasing, but also to power our chemical industries, to power our manufacturing, and in order to have chemical industries, including fertilizers, because we are agricultural countries, but also to power, to produce chemicals that will be used in the mining industry itself. So the demand will be there, and what we need is to create partnerships for extraction, for production, and to create partnerships for making sure that we can evacuate this oil and gas and reticulation within countries, among countries, and that's what is required as we see it. So the growth is expected to be phenomenal.
I couldn't agree more. You mentioned the word partnership, and that is really the topic of our discussion here, right? How are you driving that? If you just give, and I'd love to hear from all three because it's different perspectives. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of building partnerships and what you are doing to attract that kind of investment from abroad.
Well, this partnership is very crucial. Oil and gas exploration is intensive in terms of demand for financial support, is intense in terms of technological support, and these technologies and even human experts, we require to create partnerships with those who have been doing it. And in order to create this partnership for investment, for human resource technological support, we need to create good regulations. And the regulatory framework must be well put. The incentives that we want to give to the partners who come in must be very good, because people who invest want to make money out of their investment. And we as government in Zimbabwe have created that atmosphere where we sign agreements with those who come to explore and the production agreements, so that a person can see what they will put in, how much returns they can get without hindrance from the regulatory framework.
And you've seen that really encourage a lot of new companies to come in?
You know, I went to a conference down under in Perth, And the people who are investing in our oil and gas are better marketeers on what we have done than what we as government have been able to explain to the whole world. So we are very happy about what we have created, and we think going forward, they will be our best ambassadors to explain what they are already practicing in Zimbabwe.
That's fantastic. What about, in whichever order? Do you want to go first?
Okay, in my country, we are also doing public-private partnership, and this is done from the level of investors and the government. They work together through our Tanzanian Petroleum Company. They work together, but also there is a partnership between investors and the local people in terms of local content. So this helps to assure the investors who, of course, as my brother has just said, who brings a lot of money in the country. So when they have partnership with the government, it assures them of that the regulations and laws are going to be certain. They cannot easily be changed because we are also having a stake in the investment. Yeah. That being number one. But number two, with the local community, when they do partnership together, the investors, first, they transfer technology, but second, they are not going to be staying in Tanzania forever. So when they are going after investment, we are quite sure that the local people who have participated in those projects, they can continuously keep doing whatever it is that they've learned from the experts and investors. So I personally, the country really embraces partnership between us and the experts or the investors, because without it, this business requires huge capital, and of course we are the developing countries. Getting a capital is not that much easy, but also this thing requires good technology, which is more advanced, of which most of the modern countries, other developed countries have already passed that, and they have learned the experience already, and they have a lot to share for us not to start doing the same mistake they have done while they were starting investing. Yeah.
What about Trinidad and Tobago? Because you brought up Guyana as well. So just tell us a little bit about, and you have been, like you said, over 100 years, right? You really know about attracting investment, about how to really foster partnerships. And I'm really excited to hear that potentially in the next couple of years, we'll see some projects that turns around the production. So has your model changed over the last 100? I'm sure it has changed, but how has it changed? Well, and since you mentioned Guyana, does that make a difference, the fact that Guyana is there, or you just know what works for you and you're just continuing with that?
That's quite a question. There are several related issues I'll just raise quickly. First is that the region's energy landscape has changed in a fundamental way. Trinidad and Tobago has this rich legacy of oil and gas production, and along that line, several competitive strengths, including political stability as well, which is a key feature. And we are leveraging that legacy at this time. But with the partnerships, how we look at it now, is that we want to build strong partnerships with the international private sector and bring to the table institutional, regulatory, legal change and innovations so that we can do business, and we can do business quickly. When I entered office, I was, a bit surprised when the technical people and so on and the business leaders tell me, they said every single year, our country would lose 120 million United States dollars. We lose it. And we lose it only because we delay. We take long for approvals, for license, for regulatory.
So just from just that.
They have calculated, and I have no reason to doubt them, that if you don't get a drop of oil more, or molecule of gas more, but if you make decisions quickly, you can get more money. Yeah. And this is why we're very excited that we have brought an innovation to the table, something called the Energy Accelerator Hub, that we have created a multidisciplinary, multi-department type of secretariat, somewhat, led by the ministers as well, that we meet and treat with the international energy companies almost on a weekly basis with their issues. So if something was taking 6 months to do, we want to do it in 6 weeks. If it was taking 6 weeks, we want to do it in 3. So that helps with our investment climate, that business can come in record time. You will have some, environmental, regulatory approvals and so on. We will not sacrifice at all issues of the environment or safety for that matter, but we just want to move quickly. And that seemed to be a hallmark of a new partnership that is evolving now. Within recent time, you may know that ExxonMobil has returned to Trinidad and Tobago after 25 years, and we were able to do that in a record pace. And they praised the government of Trinidad and Tobago for the speed at which we operate with dealing with approvals and license and health safety regulations and so on. I think that is an important issue. The other issue is that we are making changes to the fiscal structure and the framework so that we, again, can encourage the massive investment that is needed to get back oil and gas production to what it was, at least 10, 15 years ago.
No, it's so encouraging because, I was on a panel with the CEOs of big oil companies yesterday, and we talked about technology, but they really talked about efficiency.
Yes.
And the fact that you mentioned this is, no wonder somebody like Exxon goes back and commends you for what you're doing. So it genuinely does sound very, very promising. So we'll be looking forward to that. Tell me a little bit about Zimbabwe, like how your latest kind of explorations, development that you've done. You're a much newer basin. What's the outlook there for the exploration side of things?
Well, we started our explorations early in the 1980s. But those who explored at that time said we didn't have enough of gas for commercial production. We didn't have enough of oil for commercial production. But then came young people from Zimbabwe who partnered with the Australian company, and they say, let's go for it, this time with technology which is advanced. And they asked for special grants, and which were given by government. So the partnership between an Australian company and the companies owned by young people in Zimbabwe was created, and they started applying for exploration. That exploration has gone very well with all the rituals that we need to make sure that the communities understand what we are trying to do, and the president made sure that the communities were well educated about what exploration meant and what it meant if there was enough oil and gas. So with the support of the community, they have explored. They now have confirmed that they have 1.3 trillion tons of gas, and that this can be extracted and commercially used. The oil is also very good. It has been rated as one of the best by rating companies. And we think that gas especially is where we will start, because it has these benefits of electricity generation and, as I said, clean cooking, as well as other chemicals that can be used in the country. So the exploration has been very well. It has been announced. The company that is Invictus is listed on the stock exchange in Australia, and they have listed on our foreign currency stock exchange in Victoria Falls, and they are raising funds both in Zimbabwe and in Australia. And we think that with the association and partnership they have created with a Middle Eastern company from Qatar, this will take place much faster than when we started. And there is optimism about what is happening.
Maybe we'll even see you export LNG at some point. You never know.
Well, everybody wants to export, but we, as I indicated, the economy is growing.
First,
the economy needs a lot of energy. The economy needs to use all sources of energy. We are connected to the Southern African Power Pool, which is headquarters in Zimbabwe, and electricity generation will definitely go to all parts of Southern Africa, and there is a shortage in all of Southern Africa. Then our gas We are discussing with Mozambique, with Namibia, with Zambia. We have signed a memorandum of understanding to make sure that we connect our gas pipeline, which is coming from Beira. We have asked for another pipeline which will link Mozambique again, and another pipeline which will come from Nacala, coming through Malawi to Zimbabwe to Zambia and to DRC. There is so much demand of energy in the expanding mining hubs in DRC. So we're all looking into not just the market in Zimbabwe, but the market in the whole of Southern Africa. And Tanzania, once we connect with the interconnector of electricity from Tanzania, and we interconnect with Zambia, they have excess energy, electricity right now, but we are not accessing it.
Yeah.
We have a shortage, but we cannot access it. So those interconnectors are also very important. And that is why investors, when they come to invest in one of the countries in Southern Africa, they are investing in the whole of Southern Africa.
No, that makes so much sense. Deputy Minister, can you please expand a little bit on, like you were saying earlier as well. And you also talked about employment, the economic development of the region. So is exploration something you are seeing help that as well?
Yeah, and in my country, we have invested a lot in exploration, and of course, as you said, you can see a direct impact to the job creation that young Tanzanians are benefiting from it. And there is ongoing exploration in the southern part of Tanzania. And we are still picking up seismic data in some of 2 projects, which are mega projects in the country. But over recently, there's an upcoming licensing round, which will invite investors to come and invest in their upstream business. So this sits at the heart of Tanzania. Tanzania is not that very much old like my colleague from Trinidad and Tobago, but over 10 years now, we have been enjoying the exploration and the benefit of investment in the oil and gas sector. So we are looking forward to start exporting LNG, and we are at the very final stage concluding the contract for export. And perhaps by the middle of this year, we start constructing LNG plant in Tanzania. So yeah, I agree with you. It's one of the mega job creation center in Tanzania that we are proud of.
And I will come back to all of you about the fact that clean energy and this whole thing about energy transition had been dominating, right? The media headlines, and often the concept of energy transition comes from a very Western point of view, right? When you have developing nations where just basic demand is soaring, you need, even in India, we have so much wood burn still, right? And therefore you need oil and gas to just meet that latent demand, just like you were saying, Your Excellency, just the amount of time. We'll come back to that. But I think Trinidad and Tobago, you've been, there's so much exciting stuff in terms of exploration. Just tell us a little bit, especially with Exxon going back there, what's up?
But, okay, yeah, I just want to raise one issue that you touched earlier. There can be no doubt as to the impact of the oil and gas sector on social and economic development. What we have found with our history is that to build that sector and get the sector resilient and robust, it was very important to make the massive investment in human resource development.
Right.
And it's no coincidence that Trinidad and Tobago is also home to a major campus of the University of the West Indies specializing in engineering. So that human resource development is critical for that sector intergenerational growth. And that's the advantage as well that we have. In fact, we often, boast that you can't go any place on this planet and not find a Trini in an energy setting. But that did not happen by accident as well. It was part of a long-term strategic development.
And it's a very good point, actually, right? Yeah. Because you need to, without the people and the skills, you can't really progress.
You can't, and there's a limit to how much you can depend on the expat community as well. In terms of the projects, we have some very, very exciting projects taking place on the southeast of Trinidad. ExxonMobil is there, and that is an interesting case scenario because it is the ultra deep. Now, today, what we have also found is that we are a mature province, and the technology has reached a stage now where companies are interested in blocks that they never had an interest in before because they have the technology now to go ultra deep. They have the technology now to, quicken the efficiency gap. So that is a major issue now for us, and that Trinidad and Tobago still has enormous reserves of oil and gas. And they are in areas that before have proven to be somewhat difficult. Also with the issue of climate, geography, the scientific issues and so on. But the technology, we believe now, has allowed companies to relook, to review their position with our country in terms of what they can do. The ExxonMobil block is along the same path, we believe, as what they were working on in Guyana, which made this historic find. So we're very optimistic about that, but we also have about 7 or 8 very interesting projects with several companies, I'm thinking BP, Shell, as well as many others as well, to expand gas production by 2027 or thereabout. And then we will lift that production back to some of the levels that we have seen over 10 years ago. So it's an exciting time for the sector on all fronts.
No, and like I said, I was very excited by, again, the more we look into Latin America as a whole, the prospects are just phenomenal, right? So in the interest of time, I do want to ask each of you about this question, like in terms of, are you seeing a shift in investment away from hydrocarbons, right? The reason I ask is because you three represent countries where you will appreciate what sustainability and energy affordability mean, right? This is not just saying, oh, let's not use X, Y, Z because we must be cleaner and greener. Just putting basic food on people's tables are still critical. Why don't I start with you, Your Excellency?
Well, in Zimbabwe, we have had a balance between thermal production of electricity versus hydro. But with climate change, we have realized that hydro might have limitations. And so when we are moving to non-hydro clean electricity sources is because of the necessity and because also of the technology that has lowered the price of solar, the price of wind. So we are having a shift in the sense that a lot of people now are investing in solar than that they were doing. But that does not mean a transition from thermal and from oil and gas. It only means an expansion.
It's an additive.
It's an additive to what we already need as baseload. And we are very happy with this type of scenario. And we know that internationally these ESGs are necessary for some of the companies who are now investing in thermal as well as in solar. And we are seeing that competing without negating one for the other.
No, that's fantastic. I remember having a conversation with the Energy Minister of Nigeria once, and she was saying that we are also transitioning away from like wood and cow dung to oil and gas, right? Because again, that's very, very important. You need to be able to resource every single person, and it's a growing population with so much economic growth. What about you, Deputy Minister?
Yeah, we are also, like our colleagues from other countries here, we are also transitioning from hydrocarbon, but as you said, our priority now is to make sure that nobody is left behind as we are moving to clean energy. So it will be like our priority as a country is to make sure that people get access to affordable, clean energy. Not only that, but the cost of energy should not be that high. So now Tanzania is exploring and getting a lot of natural gas. We cannot just be saying that we are running into electricity, because the fact is, yes, we have successfully electrified our villages, and now we are shifting to hamlets. We are remained with very few hamlets, and until 2030, the vision of the country is to make sure that everybody get access to electricity. But right now, what we are doing, we provide clean cooking depending on the geographical and accessibility of those people who get access to the clean energy. So we understand and we really support the global agenda of clean energy, but that should be, I think it should be transitional justice to understand that we are not that major polluters of the environment, and we should at least get justice to get into this transition gradually while we are observing the global topics and agendas. Yeah.
And you know, the funny thing is that the countries that really talk about the energy transition, we forget often that 15% of the world's population, which is the US and Europe, consume 40% of the world's energy, right? So it's very easy to talk about it when you are still consuming and telling others to reduce, right?
Yeah.
We started with Trinidad and Tobago, so the last word will also belong to you. Just tell us a little bit. Are you seeing a shift and, you know, the balance between sustainable and affordable?
I know, of course, we are pressed for time, so I'll just make 2 headline points on it.
Yeah.
And the headline point would be the developed world built their industrial thrust on fossil fuel.
Exactly.
And today, there's this feeling that the rest of us must now go into another area.
Okay.
And I think there's an ethical issue there as well. And the second point I want to make is that islands, Trinidad and Tobago, of course, an island, twin island republic, there's the issue of economies of scale and economies of scope.
Yeah.
And dealing with transition investment, you also have to reflect on the scope and scale of what you do. And sometimes it's not very easy for islands to embark upon that type of capital outlay. And for the foreseeable future, we would continue to explore, produce oil and gas, and concentrate on the domestic resources available.
Yeah. And then absolutely, like you should.
Yes.
All three countries, very, very exciting. Different stages, but very exciting developments ahead. Thank you so much for joining me. Please give the panel a fantastic round of applause. This was really, really enlightening. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.